Hey guys, it's God's Xavier here with another Xavier video. This coming year, they'll be filming a Mortal Kombat movie for the first time in almost 20 years. This is a big deal because Mortal Kombat hasn't branched out from video games in a substantial way in almost 20 years. But at one point in time, it was a blockbuster mega franchise. A time the world, for the most part, seems to have forgotten. After becoming one of the most famous and infamous games of all time, Mortal Kombat in the 90s felt like prime real estate for a cross-media franchise that would take pop culture by storm. Unfortunately though, I have a pretty strong feeling that across the entire decade, every non-gaming usage of the Mortal Kombat brand suffered from one fundamental flaw. They have no idea what the hell makes Mortal Kombat good. With the controversy and outrage surrounding the level of violence in the games themselves, pretty much everything attached to the brand tried to combat this negative press by painting the series in a new light, or changing its target audience, or just outright ignoring that the game was ever bloody to begin with. Because I'm a Spider-Man comic book channel, I say we take a look at the comics first, since they're relatively simple. This first issue from 1992 serves as a nice little primer for the story of the games and tries to help you get introduced to the cast of characters. Plus, they're drawn by the guy that we talked about in the other video. It's kind of funny how many different interpretations of Mortal Kombat use this plot point of the characters going to Shang Fang Foom's island on a boat and having a brief altercation on the way there. Although there's some inconsistencies that I've always wondered about. Like how Kano has a beard and hair again, or Raiden. It's a neat setup, but it's just got one problem. There's not a drop of blood to be found anywhere. I'm not expecting it to be Luther Strode, but weren't comics in the 90s meant to be a little edgier? This feels almost like a tie-in issue for a Saturday morning cartoon, which is a weird bit of foreshadowing. This comic would lead into being the base for the first couple of minutes of the Mortal Kombat movie that would hit theaters on August 18th, 1995. Video game movies were still relatively new at the time and hadn't been around long enough to establish themselves as consistently terrible. And consistently terrible is a great segue into introducing the director of this film, Paul W.S. Anderson.
I'm going to my trailer, I'm gonna get a gun, and I'm gonna shoot myself for being in your movie!
Who would move on after this project to ruin another beloved franchise of games. Except he really didn't let up on that one, Jesus. Could you imagine if we lived in an alternate timeline where we just got 6 of these movies instead? But as it is, I wouldn't say this movie ruined Mortal Kombat per se, just didn't do it full justice.
Sorry, I'm a criminal. Oh, you think you slick? Just get out my face, bitch. Ain't that a shame you've been knocked out the game?
So the intro is pretty similar to that tie-in comic, with one major difference being that Scorpion and Sub-Zero's rivalry has been changed, and they're more or less just 2 generic henchmen for Shang Tsung.
Scorpion and Sub-Zero. Deadliest of enemies, but slaves under my power.
They also try to make Liu Kang less boring as a character by giving him a tragic backstory, where his younger brother gets soul-sucked by Shang-Chi. Kang is now more like a reluctant hero who doesn't want to be a Bruce Lee badass. Because not wanting to be cool and strong is totally a compelling character arc. I love when the main character needs to be convinced by 6 or 7 other people to get anything done. Johnny Cage and Sonya are kind of perfect, honestly. Like, even the games write them and have them acted out about the same way. I can't tell if that's the movie being accurate to the vision of the people behind the game, or the games being influenced by their adaptation. I know Kano didn't have this accent until after the movie, that's for sure.
Give it up, baby. I've studied all your moves.
Yeah, study this!
I think this movie also influenced the idea of Raiden being kind of like a kindly father figure to the rest of the heroes instead of just some angry combat man. That's remained pretty consistent throughout the games after this, though they didn't really keep his sense of humor.
The fate of billions will depend upon you. Sorry.
He was a unique mentor character in that he's kind of a smartass and pokes fun at the heroes while guiding them. But later he's just Gandalf.
You obviously one lonely bitch, huh? Hey, this ain't nothing personal. I gotta lift weights cause I find life empty, and I don't use roids either. Shit! Oh, you lying hoe! Can't believe this shit! Oh, you obviously don't know who I am. I must be slipping. Get jacked by a buster like you. See you soon, I hope.
Even though the characters are hit or miss, the movie's plot feels pretty on point for how a Mortal Kombat movie would go. It introduces all the right ideas and structures the plot well enough to give everyone a decent fight scene, save for Raiden. The only thing holding it back is just how cheesy it is, and not in like a fun, campy way. It wants you to take these things seriously that are completely laughable, like these bad CGI models, or this slow and clunky animatronic for Goro, or this badly written dialogue. It's all just poorly implemented. And I can't tell if it was them thinking it would be really fun regardless, or if they just didn't care that much and figured the brand would make bank no matter how hard they tried in some areas. The fight scenes are serviceable for a 90s action movie, I guess. You can see what's happening. They even make an attempt to cap off the fights with a kind of brutal finisher move. I think the sound design does wonders for these scenes because it gives it so much extra impact and weight. Only thing I don't like is when they go a little too hard on slow motion for stuff that really didn't need to be in slow motion. Plus, did they need to make weird changes like Reptile being a demon-possessed statue or Scorpion's spear being a snake that lives in his arm? At least he's voiced by Ed Boon from the game, so he sounds perfect.
Get over here! Welcome! Get down here!
Why is Shang Tsung so sung right off the bat? Wait a second. In spite of that, this actor for him is just a blast. He's the perfect amount of cheesy where he's chewing the scenery, but he's still kind of badass anyway. He's the most Mortal Kombat guy here, for as little as he is in the movie. With everyone else, I think they just didn't show the villains the same amount of love and care as they did with the heroes. If there's any real saving grace, it's this hype-ass soundtrack. We got metal, we got techno dance music, we got Tracy Lords, I guess. Have fun Googling that, kids. We got the theme song that's so good we're using it 24 years later. Imagine being this guy. Sub-Zero being introduced in a suit and tie and sunglasses in this comic and then going, whoops, let me change into my sky blue ninja suit during a helicopter ride is by far the funniest shit. Overall, it's not a completely terrible movie, especially considering the usual caliber of video game movies in general. There are parts that I think are pretty neat, other stuff I just find tolerable, but there's still a substantial amount of flaws that keep it from being as good as it could have been. And once again, almost no blood. I can't wait to see the next installment of the epic combat saga. Hopefully something with better CG animation. So remember how I was talking about that boat ride they took to the island in that comic and in the movie? Well, this is just like a whole animated film about that pretty much.
You're not dead yet. Keep it that way. Now get lost.
Look, I just need to use the ship's
Hey,
radio.
act cool, lady.
Move.
Get your hands off me. You got issues, lady.
It was during that awkward transitional period for animation where we had the ability to use CGI, but we didn't have, the ability. I mean, Toy Story came out a little later that same year, so it was really just down to budget and respect for the craft. If you put a lot of time, money, and effort into it, you can make something cool despite your technical limitations. But this movie didn't have the money, time, or effort. It's a goddamn mess. The CGI animation needs nothing to be said about it, but let's try. These models all have ball joints where the limbs clip into each other, and then the faces aren't capable of emoting. On top of that, they all seem to have one open hand and one clenched, further cementing the aesthetic as those action figures you could get at the dollar store that weren't officially licensed and your grandma gave them to you as a Christmas present because you didn't actually tell her what you were interested in that year, so she just kind of figured it out and was like, maybe I'll like this, and then you're like, oh, come on, grandma, and you know, you didn't want to tell her that you were super disappointed, so you just kind of like, oh, cool, oh, whatever, but you didn't like it. I can assume from the movement that they motion captured this, which is kinda impressive for the time, I suppose, but like, the person wasn't wide enough to fit Goro's frame, so his shoulders are really contracted in on the model, and his lower arms just sort of dangle because they were animated by hand? If the technology isn't good enough yet to do something, how about, like, not try to do it?
Sub-Zero is from the clan of the Lin Kuei.
The Lin Kuei had been fully cyberized.
Lin Kuei.
The Lin Kuei.
Lin Kuei.
Lin Kuei.
Lin Kuei.
The 2D animation is just sort of lazy. I noticed it has no sense of blocking. The characters switch places in a scene every time the camera cuts to a new angle. so it's hard to get an idea of where they're standing or what's really going on. They break the 180-degree line in their fight scenes every time someone does a move. The characters never feel like they fit in the environment they're in because it's just ugly CGI backdrops they're superimposed over. They feel like green screen effects floating on screenshots of a 90s PC game. They also cheaped out and reused the same animations over and over and over and over. As far as I can tell, they did the character art in 2D, then chroma keyed it in, but they realized it looked a little, not even remotely a part of these backgrounds. So they turned up the blur effect on the edges, hoping it would make it blend together. The result is everyone has this gross, muddy outline around them that's more distracting than immersive.
Shang Tsung.
What are these character designs? Did this guy just never skip leg day? Also, why does he look like a King of the Hill character? What's this guy smiling about? The only good thing about this is that they at least got some decent voice actors. Like the terror mask for Dang Sun.
Scorpion, to secure a place in the hallowed victory hall of your clan, you must kill Sub-Zero yourself.
Or Commander Shepard as Sonya.
Lieutenant Sonya Blade, Special Forces. We got a tip a wanted man was going to be on the ship.
Well, that's kind of funny in retrospect. And in a stroke of the best casting ever, Johnny Bravo as Johnny Cage.
I'm Johnny Cage. The film actor?
For some reason, every time I hear Jeff Bennett's voice, I can only imagine all the times he's screamed as various characters. It seems like this is just a poorly put together crash course on some of the basics of the game's lore. You know, just to get you caught up on who everyone is and what they're doing. Except for Kano, because for some reason he's not there. I just don't see a lot of heart or passion being put into this. And again, it's so weird to have yet another Mortal Kombat project without a hint of violence. Let's shift gears to at least one Mortal Kombat peripheral experience that allowed for someone to actually, like, die. In the 90s, I think the only non-gaming Mortal Kombat thing that didn't censor 5 seconds of glorious gore was this obscure British gaming show. They had the game actors for Sonya and Johnny appear in costume, in character, and battle in a version of the game where they kept the violence.
For my money, the Super Nintendo version actually got slightly better gameplay, but the Mega Drive version's got all the death moves and all the blood.
Sonya just spammed the same move over and over and then fatality'd his ass, and Daniel Pesina's disappointment is palpable. Look at him, he's a broken man. This was his shining moment, and it was stolen away from him. From this point forward, he plotted his eternal revenge. Not just on Elizabeth Malecki, but on the world. Have you ever felt a chill down your spine and a cold hand clamp down on your neck? That's him turning his dark attentions on your mortal soul from his cursed sky fortress. Anyway, this was a fun little side thing I just wanted to call attention to. I needed a slight palate cleanser before it gets worse. Okay, so what do you do with the bloodiest video game ever created now that it's a pop culture phenomenon and a media point of major contention? Same thing we did with RoboCop and Rambo. Make it a kids cartoon. You remember the hit kids toy line Aliens? Well, now we got Mortal Kombat figures with non-spine-ripping action.
Alright, relax, bro.
Jesus fuck. Mortal Kombat Defenders of the Realm is the 1996 crime against humanity that lasted a very turbulent 13 episodes. It's hard to believe this show is real. It's every bad cliche about a Saturday morning cartoon that exists. It's like a parody, like that Saturday Morning Watchmen video that Alan Moore said he likes. Right down to the pet sidekick added for toys, the playset-friendly command center where all the characters live, or the quotable battle cry.
Combat time!
Sonya says it every single time.
Combat time! Combat time!
Sonya, maintain your current position. It's strategically wrong to take
combat time!
It exists in a weird continuity where the Mortal Kombat movie happened prior to this series, except like even less bloody. They call back to it a lot because they were under the insane delusion that this movie was a big hit with the kids and brand synergy was important. They've been doing this shit forever. The show's plot is pretty heavily derived from Mortal Kombat 3, where Shao Kahn and every other D-bag from the multiverse invades Earth via portals to take it over. Except in this case, all the bad guys do it like one at a time so we can have an episode about each. The combatants are now an elite squad who sit around in a technology-encrusted cave all day waiting for portals to open so they can go curb stomp whoever steps through them and tell them to stay in their dimensional lane. The first major problem with that is this looks nothing like Earth, and I have no idea where the hell they are at any given time. The whole show takes place in a desert, or on a beach, or in some old ruins, or a cave. They rarely ever show any civilization, and the aesthetic is so hideous that it'd be pretty easy to get this wasteland confused with Outworld. You know, where the bad guys live. Can the combat squad over here just like drive into town and pick up some groceries once in a while just so we can see that other people exist? And with most 90s kids shows, the characters now have been morphed into a bunch of hyperactive, angsty teenagers, judging by the youth in their designs and voices. Raiden is portrayed more like his movie counterpart, so he's kinda sarcastic and jokey.
Give me a break, Jax. You know I can't fight your battles for you.
Why not?
Sometime when the world isn't about to be invaded, I'll draw you a diagram.
Liu Kang and Sonya are as boring as cardboard, so this is the most comic-accurate casting yet. Nightwolf is a tech nerd who runs all the base's computers because that makes sense. Curtis Stryker's who gives a shit. Sub-Zero is the moody, angsty, quiet guy, I guess. Yeah, that guy looks Chinese, nailed it. Jax and Sonya are the ones who feel most like a couple of teens, and it's just so weird.
I've never felt so naked and alone in my life.
Especially Sonya. Her character was jacked the hardest. Rather than being an overly serious, duty-driven soldier, she's like a hot-headed moron that loves punching.
Oh man! We've been set up! Ow!
She's extremely aggressive at everyone for no reason.
We can't trust Sub-Zero. He's a traitor to his own clan.
What? Why is that a downside? He betrayed his clan of evil ninjas that wanted to turn him into a robot and strip away his free will? Oh boy, I can't believe this chick betrayed her father. What a disloyal coward. We can't trust someone like that. Sonya's characterization is also baffling because she's always talking about how much she hates fighting, even though she's the one who seems to enjoy it and seek it out the most.
All we ever do is fight, we train to fight, and then we fight some more. Did you ever miss just being a woman? I mean, with all the fighting, what kind of life is that? I'm so tired of all the fighting.
I feel like this was a mandatory stipulation instituted by the network, like, don't make them love violence and punching too much in this show, almost exclusively about that. We don't want the kids to take away a bad lesson.
Believe me, Sonya, I understand. I've been ready to blow myself.
The voices are hit or miss. I think having Clancy Brown and Ron Perlman, two of the best villains in animation, was a pretty solid choice, but then those are the only two who sound really cool. Just listen to Sector.
We must retreat. Surrender, Princess Kitana. We are not only superior fighting machines, we outnumber you.
Hello, welcome to the place where you will buy cheese pizza.
I mean, at least it's cool that the Cyber Ninjas show up at all. Sarax and Sector are two of my favorites. What the fuck? The fight scenes are pretty forgettable, and they occasionally use moves from the game, but obviously toned down.
Get over here!
Scorpion's spear sure ain't getting any love today. Why is it a weird palm vagina snake every time? Why can't he stab anyone with it?
Kiss off! Kiss off!
Oh great, Sonya has two catchphrases.
Ugh. This stuff is foul.
It goes on the face, not in it. I'm making a facial mask. Whoa. I do one thing that's a little feminine and I get dressed.
Everything about this show is close enough to Mortal Kombat to be recognizable, but it's just off. You gotta love how they try to put a message in each episode. Like the hot take, bullying is wrong. I love Jax's tragic backstory that he was bullied for being overweight as a kid.
Well, I was fat. I don't mean just a little pudgy either. I'm talking fat, like the fattest kid in school. Now, all the other kids used to rag on me something fierce.
Obesity and unresolved emotional issues, just when I thought he couldn't get any more American. I love you, Jax. You're my hero.
The guy's so jealous he's gonna bust a nut.
Hey, give him a break. He's in pain.
If I had to praise anything about this show, it's this one episode where Shang Tsung is resurrected from the dead just to get bitch slapped. And then he goes on a crime spree that disrupts nature and messes with Raiden's powers. I think the writing here is genuinely pretty good. Jax notices Raiden's fears of becoming mortal again and gives him some friendly advice. There's a lot of long conversations full of character development for these two, and you see them grow a little closer from just allies to actual friends. I like these characters. They're interesting, but then the episode ends and the next one is just back to the usual crap. At least there's one unironically good episode. The animation is fine, I guess. I like these geometric, simplified character designs, even though the coloring looks a little pale on the skin tones. I thought I'd hate this show mostly from how rough the first episode was, but eventually it got passable. Like, it's just another generic run-of-the-mill 90s action cartoon designed to be a big toy commercial, but at least it was competent at being that, and I've certainly seen worse. It's exactly what you sign up for when you click on that 4-hour YouTube video. I suppose a Mortal Kombat TV series could have been worse, like if it was a cringy live-action show with Power Rangers-level fights, a huge cast of characters who aren't even remotely related to Mortal Kombat, awkward, poor 90s television-quality CGI, and fan film-level set design. Oh no! Oh no! Oh! I'm not ready for that. Let's talk about something else, like, oh, I got it. What's the first thing you think of when you imagine Mortal Kombat? What themes and ideas come to mind? Positive inner growth and the desire to help your community? Exactly. The Mortal Kombat live tour was a very bad idea, but boy did they commit to it. Apparently this thing was selling out theaters nationwide for a while and even made it on the news. Now we have Shang Tsung explain what Mortal Kombat is truly about. Teaching kids how to read and the wisdom and stability martial arts can bring to your life.
Violence has always been around, but what martial arts and this show has to present is all positive messages. What helps children be able to be concerned about violence, to be able to overcome any obstacles which is in their life and to be able to obtain goals. It helps them commit to good things in their life. This helps spread awareness and helps to overcome illiteracy.
Hey, is that?
Hi. That is the ultimate six-pack of a stomach. That's like an 8-pack there. You're not even, okay. Oh, yikes.
These costumes are adorably bad, which is a perfect description for our next topic.
It helps children be able to be able to
Mortal Kombat Conquest, they spelled it with a C so it's already wrong, is a show that has no idea who it is made for and why. It exists as a pure anomaly where no one thought about the reason they made this show or what audience could possibly like it. It's certainly not for the fans of the games because it isn't violent. It's not even really about the tournament itself, just some stuff that happens in the same universe. It's not for any new audience members because every episode just throws in random overcomplicated lore from the games that a newcomer would think sounds stupid. It's not for kids because there's too many boring scenes about the main character pondering heavy concepts and philosophy while his sidekicks rob corpses and attempt to molest people while under mind control from a sorcerer who refers to his assassins as
miserable sluts.
It's not for adults because the fight scenes and visual effects are so laughably bad and impossible to take seriously.
Speak.
Harakiri. We start out with the usual setup. Raiden is groomed a champion to save Earthrealm by winning the tournament and stopping Outworld's win streak from getting to 10. So far they've won 9, and if this evil alternate dimension gets to that 10th win, the Elder Gods will allow them to invade and enslave Earth. You know, basic shit. Except this time the hero is Kung Lao. Nope, not that guy. Remember way back in part 1 how he said his ancestor was a hero that was killed by Goro like 500 years ago? Well, this show's about him, prior to his change in hairstyle and inevitable defeat. Being that it's 500 years ago, none of that silly, awesome sci-fi shit like lasers and cyborgs can show up. Though for whatever reason, Scorpion and Sub-Zero are here despite their disagreement happening in like the late 1980s. All other characters are ageless gods and demons, so they get a pass. Kung Lao beats Shang Tsung and saves the world pretty early on, then abandons his costume because shut up. So he goes home to Earth, shacks up with a royal guard who's bad at his job, and a thief that, hey, wait a minute, this girl goes on to have her head rammed through a tile wall by Arnold Schwarzenegger. What an honor. So Lau and his 2 roommates are now targets because of his win in the tournament, and just get harassed every episode by various magical goons who want to prove they're the best, or kill him before the next tournament, which is in 50 years? Let's break it down. The cast. None of the main cast are exactly good at acting, but they're not awful. I'd say they're on par with like a decent fan film.
Last time we saw him was in the Hidden City.
Hold it. Just hold it. What did Raiden say when he stood in front of the portal to Outworld? Get the hell out of here? Now you want us to go back?
We don't have a choice. Things are out of control. We need Raiden.
Some smaller characters are more noticeably bad than others, like Kung Lao's girlfriend who gets fridged in the first episode.
This is not the end, Kung Lao. Your strength is in me, and mine in you.
Or
Takeda is no more. I am Scorpion. I was sent to make you suffer, and then kill you. Get over here!
Ugh, not Ed Boon. I kind of like the guy they got to be Raiden, and he's got enough range that he also plays Shao Kahn.
I am Raiden, God of Thunder! I am Shao Kahn, Conqueror of Realms!
You can't even tell they're the same dude. As was the style at the time, Raiden's a sarcastic dick, and I kind of miss this version of the character.
Not the first guy to be given responsibility, Kung Lao.
Maybe I don't want it.
Tough, you've got it. Just like everybody else.
Yeah, that looks like Katana, good job. This adaptation of Shang Tsung is pretty campy and fun, but he can't measure up to Kari Hiroyuki Tagawa. Yeah, that looks like Melina. I'll give you half a point on that one. To fill for a 22-episode season, this show keeps characters from the game to a minimum and inserts a lot of original schmucks who just aren't as memorable or interesting. Like Shang Tsung's girlfriend that's like basically Starscream, who he meets after getting exiled to work in the mines for being a loser. Or Ghost Rider's girlfriend, or Quan Chi's hired thug, Joy Turner, who's also his girlfriend. Also this lame-ass guy, Reiko. Can you imagine if any of these awful characters were in the game? Oh, yeah. Oh, hey! Shang Tsung and Quan Chi are together in an episode titled... Close enough. Costume! The show's costumes excel when they're for characters from the games. Raiden, Khan, all 4 ninjas who show up, and damn, Quan Chi looks great. This is pretty much exactly his costume from MK4 and Mythologies. It's a shame that he's not played by Rich DeVizio, though, and that he talks like this. What was that? Never mind, he was cool up until he made that noise. All the female characters are dressed in what looks like lingerie fetish gear for some reason. God, that looks cold. As for everyone else, they're taking cues from MK4 and just wearing old, vaguely Asian, vaguely European, vaguely Middle Eastern, just old clothing. They can't decide on an aesthetic. The main heroes in particular are all dressed like fucking Cabin Boy.
Showtime!
Fight scenes! They typically suck and all feel identical. Like, the characters are just doing the same handful of moves over and over in every fight in the same few locations. The plot of each episode just dead stops so these goofballs can eat up the running time doing slow motion backflips and roundhouse kicks at each other with very poor sound mixing. None of these hits feel like they have any impact because they cut just before the hit makes contact, then show another take of it closer up. Jackie Chan explained some neat stuff about fight choreography that always stuck with me. Is that when editing his own fights, he cuts just a second after the hits just to show the reaction so the audience can register it better.
Boom, cut, then second shot, from here, boom, again, strong. Change the second film, the audience just, they're so quick. They know there's fighting going on, they cannot really see what's going on. American movie, you can see there's a lot of movement. When the camera angle movement, that means the actor, they don't know how to fight. The director used the angle. The audience just very dizzy.
Otherwise, every time someone gets hit, that impact is in this weird nebulous space between frames where the camera jumps to a new place, and it just doesn't feel real. The editing in general is poorly executed a lot of the time because the blocking of the fights gets really confusing. Just look at the floor here and how between several shots it seems like they just keep hopping to a new place. Or hell, the lighting will change sharply from one shot to the next and it just feels like the character teleported somehow. I think they had the performers run these same fights in the set multiple times, filmed it from different angles, and then just cut to whichever angle looked the best for each move, which is like how you typically shoot a dialogue scene. So the end result is the camera just not feeling like it has any motivation or reason for being anywhere. Here's a super far away shot from behind them. Here's a super close up shot with shaky cam. Here's a top down view because we had a stepladder on set that day and by God we were gonna use it. They also make no attempt to have the actors look beat up at the end of all this. They can wail on each other for 4 minutes straight and still have perfect hair and clean, untattered clothes afterwards.
I've done what I came for. Flawless victory.
However, sometimes they pull out all the stops and the fight choreography gets noticeably way better. And that's when Scorpion and Sub-Zero are fighting. God bless whichever beautiful soul on set said, these two are the only reason most people are tuning into this show, we better not screw that up. So the fights with Scorpion and Sub-Zero have way better stunts, way cooler locations, and a lot more impact and use of the environment. Hell, even the camera placement seems to have a little more thought put into it. If you just auto-correct the bad CGI in your brain to something more believable, then these fights are pretty cool.
Hey girl, go moan someplace else. Say cheese.
In spite of everything wrong with this show, something about it just doesn't feel cynical. There's a genuine heart and fun tone for it that may not feel like Mortal Kombat, but it's not completely unpleasant. I tried to hate this show, but I just can't. It's not like Journey Begins or Defenders of the Realm because it doesn't feel like every creative decision was made to sell products or make a quick and easy buck off the hype of this franchise. Sure, it doesn't feel like the love letter to the series you'd want either, but it gave an honest attempt, misguided as it may be. So, maybe check it out. I don't know. You don't have to if you don't wanna. The show ends with Shao Kahn killing all the heroes and invading Earth, laying waste to the village and striking down a bloody and beaten Raiden while laughing maniacally. Fun. All of these examples of the series branching out in the worst ways really paint a great overall picture. Mortal Kombat could have been one of the biggest franchises of all time. Like, it's got enough material in the lore, characters, and ideas that it could have been on par with Marvel and DC. There was an insane amount of potential, and at every point it was squandered by people who just wanted to use the name to generate cash. Between all the hype and controversy for the games, this was a huge name in the 90s. But these days, that name is rarely said outside of talk exclusively about the games or just the off-reference in a comedy sketch. So many times it could have elevated to a new level in pop culture consciousness, but so rarely did these adaptations and tie-ins know what they were going for, either by trying to take the material too seriously, or not serious enough, or just flat out not understanding it at all. These examples just knocked the wind out of what could have been a giant and caused everyone to slowly forget it was a thing outside of the games. I'm not saying all these movies and shows and comics would have been better if they had grindhouse level violence, but by just knowing who they were making these things for and why. It shouldn't have been watered down and marketed to kids, and it certainly shouldn't have been so ashamed of what made these games memorable. With all that being said, you may notice I skipped something, but this video is long enough, and I think a train wreck on this level deserves its own video. Next time on Xavier Ball Z, Franchise Annihilation.
You want more? You want more? Huh? You want some more of this? Hook-ass buster!
Just a quick reminder before you go that I post my videos a day early on Patreon and give exclusive behind-the-scenes content and patron-exclusive videos. Please consider becoming a patron, it really helps me out. If you want a more short-term way to support the channel, you can check out my merch in the links in the description. We have t-shirts, phone cases, posters, mugs, pillows, baby onesies, and so much more. See you next time!